this little speech is the last thing I did in September when the adult leadership Thomaston came. So this is the gist of the information on this building. Welcome to Andrews Chapel School. This is history, a true example of school and public education in Upson County 75 to 145 years ago. History shows the change of life before us. This area was known as Andrews, Georgia, and the post office was in the Andrews home, which was right down the road, and they didn't have a zip code. William Gaines Andrews of Oglethorpe County drew a land grant in 1827 in Upson County and amassed a large plantation here before his death in 1875. His 9 children were homeschooled using the family ciphering book. It's normally located at the archives, but Jameson brought it, and Jimmy has looked at that over the years, and he said if you went through that, you could graduate from Georgia Tech. In 1876, Thomas G. Andrews, son of William Gaines Andrews, saw the need for a community schoolhouse. A building was built by the community and was named Andrews Academy. The original building stood right out there, and it was one room with one teacher. It had a fireplace in one end and a wood-burning stove at the other. Enrollment ranged from 18 to 28 pupils, usually within walking distance. In 1900, the school system grew to 46 schools, of which 38 were one-room schools. This is the only one-room school in Upson County. In 1912, John A. Thurston became superintendent of school. The Andrews Academy was destroyed by wind, and the new superintendent allocated funds for building the current building and 7 others in 1912. Y'all come on in. The building was built by the community. There was no water on the premises, so a student had to bring a bucket of water from home each day, a bucket similar to this, and they all drank out of the same dipper. The students had to bring their lunch each day, and they would bring it maybe in a lard can that had a top on it, or a sugar bag, or something that they could close up to keep the ants out of it before lunch. And each family had to supply a wagon load of wood for heat in the winter. The school had 3 rows of desks that had been moved from the older school. The desk had inkwells and many initials carved on them. Probably 20 years ago, this gentleman from Dallas, Texas called, and he wanted to know, he said he was coming to Thomaston to visit relatives, and he wanted to know if the schoolhouse was still standing first, and if he could get into the schoolhouse. And we told him yes. I forgot how he got to us, but anyway. He said, I want to come and see if my initials were still in the desk that I carved. So he came and looked over all of it, and sure enough, his initials were still there.
Great story.
The black chalkboards were on one wall between the windows, as they are now, and we had to get those from the city at the old West End School, I think it was, because everybody else had green boards, but they kept telling us they only had black boards. A long black bench, which is the bench in the back, was used. It was normally sitting in the front. The teacher would instruct one class, and then they would return to their desk to either do the homework or work on whatever she had given them to do. Then the next class would come to the front, and she would instruct them. The school calendar was as follows. They were in school November, December, January, and February. They were out of school March, April, and May for spring planting. They were in school June, July, and August, and they were out of school September, October for the fall marks. School would be dismissed at noon if the weather was favorable for farm chores. There were 2 outdoor privies, one for the boys and one for the girls. One still stands down in the woods this way, but it's in poor condition. And when we had the chamber people out here, they were more interested in the privy and the rock foundation under the school. Electricity was not installed in this building until 1952. As we got more interested in it after we took it over in 1984 when Jimmy's mother passed away. Different people would tell us what they had in here, and we'd try to buy that. They told us there was a chandelier that had kerosene lights on it. First we found one with 4, and they said no, it had 2. So we later found the 2 and replaced it. But we tried to put things back the way they said it was. In the 1930s, the community cut timber on the property to add this stage accommodation. It has 5 doors here, so that the students, when they did the play, they could go in and out the doors, and there's a little walkway behind it. Again, it was built by the community. Since there was no electricity in the building, the kerosene lights on the post and the 2-light chandelier were their only source of lighting. The rock foundation the building is sitting on was the original foundation, as it had been here for 109 years. Over the years, we purchased books to put in the schoolhouse, and they were all dated prior to 1940 because they quit having school here in 1941. These are the type of books that would have been used during this period. And we thought we had everything that we could find about the schoolhouse, and several months ago we have a new picture of the old schoolhouse with the students that a lady in Alpharetta found among her mother's things, and she is trying to get this picture enhanced to give to the schoolhouse. And then she also had a play program from a play, and it says it was April the 27th, they just forgot to put the year, but from the people who were in it, who were some of Jimmy's relatives, it would have had to been in the early 1900s for them to have participated. As a student, they could have participated as an adult, but more likely students. So she is bringing that to us. The school successfully survived and provided 7 grades of education for community children until the end of 1941. It was a privilege to go to school, and not every child had the opportunity. The community held together from 1941 until now to preserve this building for future generations. An example of this dedication is that on June 1st, 1893, Thomas G. Andrews' daughter, Elizabeth Lizzie Andrews, was married to Drake Carpet in the old school building. Mr. Andrews announced that day a singing would be held at Andrews Chapel the first Sunday in June for the next 100 years. On June the 3rd, 1993, the 100th singing was held, but the name was changed after that wedding to Andrews Chapel School, and there's pictures of that 100th singing overnight. After the school was closed, the community helped with the upkeep for a number of years. The McKinley family has maintained the building for the past 30 plus years because it is part of our heritage. Jimmy's grandfather, along with his brother and sisters, attended school in the first building, and his mother was a student in the current building. Ms. McKinley finished the 8th through 12th grades at R.E. Lee. In 2018, this building and contents was deeded to Upton County Board of Commissioners. This was done in order to preserve this building and its history. Currently, the county is working through the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation and having the building assessed for restoration needed in order to be available to the public. The Upton Historical Society has presented a plan for the continued operation of the building. It is anticipated that this building will survive another 100 plus years. Thank you.